Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Heroes and Hardships core rulebook. This is the early access version. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review featuring this Universal RPG system, please check out the playlist in the description below. I am also going to put links to the Kickstarter that has recently begun. I am also going to put links to the Discord, to the website, to the Tetsubo section of the website. Tetsubo is an upcoming setting for Heroes and Hardships inspired by Japan's Sengoku era. You will also find links to my reviews of the Quick Start Guide and the Wallace campaign setting based on the life and exploits of William Wallace. Now let's continue. This time we are going to talk about the character creation process. There are two types of character creation methods in this role-playing game: the roll method and the pick method. The roll method generates attribute scores randomly by rolling 1d10 and referencing a table. The pick method allows attribute scores to be chosen freely, with a pool of attribute points. The game master should work with the players to determine which method they wish to use. The roll method is far more random, of course, but allows some mitigation of rolls. The pick method allows players to tailor their characters exactly as desired. It is advised that all players use the same method of attribute score generation, but that is ultimately up to the game master to decide. So when it comes to the steps of character creation, step 1 is choosing an attribute generation method. If you choose the roll method, it's going to vary depending on the power level. Let's say that at power level 1, you rolled a number between 3 and 7. That would result in an attribute score of 2. But at power level 2, if you roll any number between 4 to 7, you get an attribute score of 3. And at power level 3, any number that you roll between 4 and 7 results in an attribute score of 4. So there are variations. For example, you could also roll 2 or 3, and in the case of power level 2, it would result in a 2. But if you roll 2 or 3 on power level 3, it would result in an attribute score of 3. Now, as mentioned earlier, you can mitigate these results by flipping attributes, that is, exchanging the places of two attribute scores. Maybe you want a higher strength, so you're going to switch that attribute with perhaps dexterity or empathy. You can also place your free attribute point in any of these scores. Now, when it comes to the pick method, this is a point-buy system. You get a number of points depending on the power level, and you're going to purchase your attributes that way. So it's very simple. You choose a power level for your game, and then you decide if you want to determine things randomly, or if you want to purchase your attribute scores instead. Then we have step 2 in character creation: determine skills. A character's skills are what helps separate them from everyone else. These skills can be learned from formal education, work, trial and error, or any other way that reasonably represents your character's background. You're going to be purchasing skill ranks. These are rated from 0 to 10. The points that you use to purchase these ranks are determined by the sum of the different attribute categories. So you're going to total the scores in the physical category, in the mental category, and so forth. You're going to be spending these totals as skill points to purchase your skill ranks. You normally use the points from each category to purchase skills related to that specific category, but you can also purchase skills from other categories. So for example, you can use the points that you obtained from the total of physical attributes and purchase skills in the social or perhaps mental category. The next step is calculating characteristics. There are several statistics that are derived from both attributes and skills. These are called characteristics. They should be calculated before purchasing abilities, as some abilities can modify characteristics directly. If abilities are selected that modify a characteristic score, the player should update the characteristic as necessary when the ability is purchased. So you have speed, size, wound threshold, defenses such as base defense, magic defense, mental defense. You also have wound levels, injury levels, mortality thresholds. You have terror levels. You also have fear level and insanity threshold. We are going to talk about these different derived characteristics in a future part of this review. Next, you choose your ancestry. This is treated as your species or perhaps race in other role-playing games. I think that the name is somewhat inadequate because, for example, what if you want to create an android or a robot? Do they have ancestors? So that's a bit weird. Well, regardless, the player should choose what ancestry they want for their character, or they may make their own with the game master's permission. Ancestry traits listed in the ancestry are available to the character. Ancestry traits can be selected at random or chosen. It is suggested that those using the roll method use the random roll, and those using the pick method choose their traits. Regardless of how the ancestry trait is selected, levels of the trait must be purchased. You may select any number of ancestry traits that you can afford and your character has access to. The cost of each level of the trait can be purchased with the following things in mind. You may trade one level of an ancestry trait for one rank of a flaw. You may gain no more than 2 ranks of flaws in this manner. Flaws are chosen by the game master with input from the player. Exchange 6 ability points per ancestry trait level from any and all ability point categories. You must purchase all trait levels independently. Ancestry traits may never be purchased after character creation with experience points without the game master's permission. After that, you determine the literacy of your character and you purchase abilities and ancestry traits. To purchase these abilities and ancestry traits, you spend ability points, which are gained by the physical, mental, social, and fate total. So you add up the skill ranks of your physical category together, you add up the mental skill ranks together, and so forth. So this ability and ancestry trait purchase method is quite straightforward, but you have to respect some prerequisites depending on the ability or the trait that you want to purchase. Next, you determine the background of your character. You assign flaws. These flaws are actually assigned by the game master with input from the players, but never chosen by the players themselves. These flaws can be exchanged to add ancestry trait levels, so a more flawed character could receive some extra benefits because of this. Next, you choose your career. Heroes and Hardships doesn't use class levels, but players should list the character's career within their background. The character's career could consist of a couple of words that define what they do. This description should be fairly generic and setting appropriate. For example, cattle rustler, space marine, spy, pilot, and so forth. A career has one mechanical benefit in relation to the career skill. The career skill is a catch-all knowledge skill related to a character's career. This helps the game master and player determine when a player can use career for knowledge they might possess while doing their job. Next, you determine wealth and equipment. This role-playing game does not use actual currency when determining the value of an item, instead using currency points when needed. The game master may simply allow players to select gear that matches their character's background, or may require players to determine how many currency points they begin with. The wealth of a character is typically based on their influence attribute and their status skill. Players must make a status skill check. The result is the character's starting currency points. Use these currency points to select the character's gear. So to sum it up, you have 10 steps of character creation. You choose an attribute generation method along with power level. You determine skills. You calculate characteristics. You choose ancestry. You determine literacy. You purchase abilities and ancestry traits. You determine background. The game master assigns flaws. You choose a career, and you determine wealth and equipment. Now when it comes to advancement in the game master is going to be rewarding characters for roleplay and completing tasks, and you will be able to develop many things about your character, such as attributes, skills, abilities, etc. And there are many options and variations in this regard. You can handle unlimited advancement of attributes, skills, etc. You can allow the players to actually recover burnt fate points. This depends on the way that you want to handle the campaign. Perhaps it's a good idea for high-powered campaigns. And at the end of this section, you have a complete example of character creation. So it's going to be very easy for you to understand the entire process. This concludes this part of the review. In the next part, we are going to talk about skills and abilities. I think that it's excellent that you have so many choices when it comes to character creation. Do you want to determine things randomly? Would you rather purchase your skills, your attributes, and the like? It's all up to you. And you have many options to further customize the power level, the theme, the flavor, the atmosphere of the campaign. You can handle things as gritty or as over the top as you want. Thank you for watching this part of the review, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.